You'll always be my brother, but you're still the rapist that came into my bedroom and did those things.
The arrogance of it and the total lack of remorse.
The sad truth is, for many of them, life's harder.
What a montage! I wasn't expecting that. That was rousing. It remains you why you love TV, especially at a time like this. It's galvanizing, it's community, it's information, it's entertainment, it's everything. So it's my great pleasure to say good afternoon and welcome to the Channel 4 interview 2020 as part of the Sheffield Doc Fest, which of course is happening virtually this year. So thank you so much for logging on. Thank you for joining us. It's a beautiful day for it. I'm Vic Hope. I'm going to be hosting the session today, and I'm interviewing a new documentary talent who I'm sure you'll be aware of right now, as her name is everywhere, and rightly so. Following on from the release of her new documentary, Damilola, The Boy Next Door, the reaction to which has been incredible. It is such a powerful piece of television, such an important piece of television. And she has been mentioned on just about every virtual panel this year with a Channel 4 Factual team member present. So we're going to be chatting about the doc, about the process, about the themes, but also about Yinka herself as a broadcaster, her career, her journey so far. Please, if you have questions, do ask them. Use Slido. The event number is on your screen. We're going to be getting to them later in the talk. But right now, I am so excited to introduce the wonderful, talented Yinka Bokinni, who is here.
Hello.
Yinks, how are you?
I'm okay, sweetheart. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I was just thinking, when did we last see each other? And it was before this whole lockdown happened. It was the premiere of Noughts and Crosses, Malibu Blackmans. It was being made for BBC Three, and that was like literally days before we all shut down. And I've not seen you since. How are you?
I'm good. It's so annoying though, because I wish I gave you a big hug and I didn't just wave at you from across the room. I thought I was going to see you in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
So I think that, all things considered, I'm doing really well. Of course, I hoped that this could have been in person, but I'm so happy to be here and to be talking, especially to my friend, about something that means so much to me as well.
Well, I remember when you were making this doc and we were working like literally on the same corridor. We did a breakfast show in two different studios that were like adjacent to each other. So we'd see each other at 5:30 every single morning. And I know what you went through and how you were feeling and the emotional roller coaster and the physical roller coaster of it, which we'll talk about in just a bit. But first, I want to talk about you. You're a Capital XTRA DJ. You do the breakfast show. You're a true crime vlogger. You run your own magazine system. You're a TV presenter. You're so much more. So I want to show everyone watching right now your very varied career so far. We've got a clip. Yeah, Yinka, you have done quite a lot of different bits and pieces, from full music, as we saw there, to Capital XTRA, to now, making an incredible documentary. Did you always know that you wanted to be a broadcaster?
Yeah, I think so. When I was younger, I come from such a huge family. Sunday dinner is public speaking. I'm one of 7. Yeah. I've never been afraid to share my mind and speak to people. And even though I went to uni, I did law, I graduated, and then kind of floated about for a bit, I think I always knew that my my purpose, my path would have been in connecting with people. I think for me, it's about humanizing and just having conversations, be it on the breakfast show where I get to be people's friend every day while they're on the way to work, or, you know, interviewing people, or now, you know, making factual films. It's a thing of just being able to connect and humanize people. I think that's the thing that I'm quite passionate about. But I would say I knew I wanted to work in some sort of public sector, and it just so happens that I just now talk at people.
You talk with people. It's like this community at breakfast is so special. It's so sacred, because I remember growing up and like listening to the breakfast show on your way to school, and with Chris Moyles, if I heard car park catchphrase, it meant that I was late for school, but it was okay because I heard car park catchphrase. Like, you remember that, you feel like you have a relationship, and it is, as you say, it's a humanizing of the audience. But it is quite different from law. Was that a difficult decision, making that change, and why did you make it?
Well, my dad's Nigerian, so it's kind of expected of us in our culture to do something quite academic with our lives, you know.
Yeah.
My dad's, he was born in Nigeria, so he came to London with the view that education is your escape, and it is the way that you prove that you've made it, and that you are just as good as everybody else. So when it came to picking a degree subject, you know, it was reading law or studying medicine, and I just really didn't want to be a doctor. So it was the lesser of two evils for me. I'm really glad that I studied it and stuck with it. And even though my degree is in my dad's toilet and I don't use it, I think it says something, you know, that I completed it. It says something that I stuck with education for as long as I did, because I actually think I wouldn't be able to, you know, articulate myself or be able to get my point across in the way that I am currently able to, if it wasn't for the life lessons that 4 years at uni kind of taught me.
Yeah, there's sort of I would say unsaid, but no, it's very much like spoken rule. Same in our family. We're Nigerian as well. Like, you're a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, and if you're not, you are what my grandma calls me, a halot. A halot.
My dad doesn't even know what I do for a living.
I don't understand it at all. So I
completely
understand. But you know what? Having done it, you're right. You're so prepared. You've got the tools. You've got the ability to talk to anyone about anything, and that's what this is. When did you get your first break on screen, or was it radio first? Was it Rinse first?
Yeah. So it was Rinse first. I kind of forced them to give me a job. I'm the sort of person who will just keep going and going and going until I get what I want. I'm extremely stubborn, and I don't take no for an answer. And that's not to say that I, you know, badger people, but I will get better, and I will prove to you that I can do the thing that you said that I couldn't do. So when it came to Rinse, I just showed up at their door one day and was like, "Can I get a job?" And they were like, "No." And then after a year or so, I got a job on their street team. So I was handing out flyers at my uni, at other unis. I was going to raves at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and handing out flyers. And then I started like burning CDs for them. And then I became a regular guest on Julie Adenuga, you do the drive time show at Rinse. And then slowly I got my own Saturday show, and I worked my way up to the breakfast show there. And it was just that I reached the glass ceiling, and I wanted to broaden my ability and get more experience, hence moving over to Capital XTRA in 2016.
Yeah, we've talked about before the pros and the cons of going to a bigger station and to having what is essentially like a much bigger platform and a much bigger audience, but also some of the restrictions that there can be. How did you find that jump to a big commercial station?
I was petrified. I was so scared, because I came from community radio, and Rinse FM is owned by a bunch of friends, and we all would go and broadcast in Ibiza together, but it would be a lads' holiday to this very much a corporate conglomerate. And I just thought, this is a business, you know, I've got a pass to get into this door. That's crazy.
I got a lanyard.
Mrs. Lanyard and me, I've lost it 8 times in the last 4 years. I'm notorious for losing my pass. But I think within Global, with Capital XTRA specifically, it is like a family, and I definitely fit in like a house on fire. And especially now doing the breakfast show with one of my best friends, Shayna Marie, and Ben as well, who's become a really good friend of mine, and we're like a little unit that works together. It still has that community feel, even though we have that commercial backing. So I do think that I have the best of both worlds, because I get to do, my dream job, which is a national breakfast show, playing the music that I want to play, but I also get to hang out with my mates. So I do feel a little bit like I've hacked life, but of course 4:45 in the morning is no mean feat.
Yeah, I did want to ask actually about the toll that it takes on you psychologically, emotionally, physically. How do you find the time to do everything that you do? Because you're so involved and so proactive on so many levels. When you decided to release a magazine this year, you're like, I'm just going to do that. It's a new platform. That's a lot of work. I couldn't believe it. But I'm in awe constantly of how much you put in.
I just think you get what you put in. You get out of it the amount of effort that you put in. And I don't believe in doing anything unless I'm going to do it 100%. And that's even with the breakfast show. Like I said, we're a small team, but we broadcast to hundreds of thousands of people. And I'm actively involved in every single thing we say, everything that goes out on social media. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I just think you need to do it properly. It's all well and good, the link being laughing at Stormzy's shoes, but how are we going to get there? That it takes prep. You don't just rock up and put a mic up and hope for the best. Of course, the best links and the best type of content are spontaneous, but you have to prepare and just strive to be great. With System Magazine, it's because I wanted a platform that didn't, specify when they were speaking to Black women and women of color. I wanted us to be included in the fold. And I found that when I do read more internationally well-known or just bigger publications, they've got their content and then they have content for people of color, and we're othered. So that I just created something that I saw a gap. Of course, I'm exhausted, but it's that thing of I just enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about moving on to working with Channel 4 and moving into documentaries. How did that begin? Because it's a difficult route to take. It's difficult to get a commission.
It's so crazy because of course it is difficult to get a commission. And, when I first met Emma Harding from Channel 4, everyone kind of told me like, yes, it's good that you're meeting Emma and she's great and she is absolutely wonderful. And she's definitely the reason as to why I met Fozia and how this commission came about. But I was, it's the long game and it's and I was completely prepared for, us to be having conversations for years until the perfect project reared its head. It just was so serendipitous with this film that we made and with the time that we wanted to make it, and the fact that I already knew the guys from ACME, but then Fozia suggested that I go and meet them. We had a very lovely chat in which I just told them a bit about my history, about my past, and that's when the kind of subject of Damilola came up and I explained that I knew him. It was really organic, and I know that these things, especially when you do want to be on TV and especially when you do want to make factual films, it's really difficult to get your passion across because ultimately you have to appeal to an audience and people have to want to watch it. So I feel so incredibly lucky and blessed that my first film for Channel 4 is almost like a memoir. It's the most passionate I think I'm ever going to be about anything that I do, and it's my debut on the channel, so it makes me feel it makes me feel very, very imposterous, but it makes me feel really good at the same time.
It sounds like such an organic process that this particular film came about, but had you been wanting to make documentaries before? Was that like an ambition of yours?
Definitely. I mean, I love magazine type shows and I love factual entertainment. I love entertainment. I just think there's something in documentaries, there's something in factual shows and factual films that calls to me, because even though by day I am the Capital XTRA breakfast presenter and we definitely laugh at H and Stormzy and Skepta and Miss Banks, there is light and shade to my character. And, I'm a human being who wants to speak to human beings about their experiences in life. And I find that the most direct way to do that is through factual films. So it's definitely been something that I've been wanting to do. I just thought that it would take a while before someone trusted me to be able to delve into this genre of filmmaking.
And when you were first introduced to Fozia, the commissioner at Channel 4, you said that there was a very organic kind of conversation that came up around working with ACME particularly. Why did that feel like it made sense? And then how did Damilola come up in conversation? Because it sounds like it was quite spontaneous, a bit of an accident actually that you stumbled upon it.
Definitely. I think, well, for me anyway, maybe the guys will be screaming at their computers like, no, Yinka, it wasn't an accident. But for me, it was definitely something that was so organic. Fozia just mentioned that I should meet ACME, and she kind of set that meeting up for me. And when I went to the offices, I completely forgot that I knew Evie and that I'd met Jamie before. So when I went there, I was like, oh, old friends. And then we had a conversation about who I am, what I'd like to do, what my interests are, a bit about my past, a bit about Peckham. And that's when I mentioned that Dami was one of my neighbours. And I think in that meeting, I actually mentioned that I was in a panorama. I think it was this meeting. And
Right.
they were like, oh, we'll see if we can try find it. It might have been the second meeting this happened. And then upon finding that footage, we just filmed a small taster. It was maybe like 10 minutes in my house. And then we showed it to Fozia, and she was, and I think Danny watched it as well, and they were really interested. And that's when the film got commissioned.
And how did it feel when you got that as your first Channel 4 commission? Because it's so personal for that to be your introduction to the channel.
I wasn't expecting it to be as soul-bearing as it's turned out to be. I definitely rocked up on the first day of filming and like, yeah, I'm a TV presenter. I'm gonna host the bejesus out of this. And very quickly I realized that yes, I'm narrating the story, but I'm definitely part of the story. So I would say that it was a baptism of fire, this film.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I think that it was the best way to be introduced into actual film, because it's probably the hardest thing that I'll have to do.
And why did Channel 4 feel like the right platform for this story to live?
Because it's different. I think Channel 4 is about making film that matters. It's about making programs that matter. You know, there are certain shows that only live on Channel 4, that can only be the home. And I just thought that, yeah, it's different. I think Channel 4, the sort of programming that surprises you. And I think that without it being on Channel 4, I don't think that the film even would have turned out in the way that it had, because, you know, we wanted to make it with that Channel 4 flavour that doesn't exist on other channels in the factual space anyway.
I remember when you were telling me about it, we were in a car together, like it must have been like February or something last year, and he said, I'm doing this film and it's about Damilola Taylor, and he was my childhood friend. And I couldn't quite work out what it would be like, what the documentary would look like, what the themes would be. And yet the themes go so far beyond anything I could have imagined. Processing trauma, unpacking it, black joy, about, he said something in an interview the other day about how roses can grow from the concrete, and it just hits so hard and it feels so apt, but it means so much to so many different people. So I think we should talk about it. But first, we do have a clip from Damilola, The Boy Next Door. So let's start off by watching that, and then there's so much to talk about, Yinka. Yinka, you said that you thought coming into this you'd be just hosting the bejesus out of it, and actually you went on a journey that's incredibly personal. I've just got a question here that's come in through Slido saying, was exploring such a personal and traumatic story something you were conscious or fearful of before starting production?
I wasn't aware, I don't think. I knew that it would be tough, but I think I was extremely naive when it came to beginning the journey of exploring my past and exploring my friendship and what happened to Dami. Very quickly in filming, I realized how difficult it was going to be. And it was a big strain because, of course, I was also doing my job. So waking up 4:45, going to work, finishing at like 11, and then filming until maybe 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it was quite emotionally and physically draining. Luckily, of course, I was offered heaps of support, and I definitely took advantage of all of the resources. No, I don't think I was aware of it. I think actually, if I was aware, and I think if I knew what I was getting myself in for, I wouldn't have been so open or vulnerable. And I don't think that you would have got the real story out of me, because it was extremely painful, but it was in the shock that I was able to be so honest.
Did you know what you'd be unpacking when you first went into it? Because it's almost like I feel like because of the summer that we've had and the momentum that the Black Lives Matter movement gained, I was going into watching this with certain expectations. I assumed it would be a certain type of program that would fit the narrative that is, you know, being shown and broadcast at the moment. And actually, it wasn't. That wasn't the film that it was at all. Did you expect to unpack trauma and to confront grief and loss and what that means as a child? Which actually, looking at the situation that we're in at the moment and how many children are facing grief and possible future trauma, it actually feels so timely.
I think it's definitely timely. That was an accident. You know, of course, we could never have predicted what would have happened this year and the way that this film would slot in so perfectly with the tone and just the way in which everyone is collectively feeling grief. No, that I could never have known that was going to happen. But I can definitely say that I knew this film was going to be different from the moment that we decided to pick up a camera, because I've never made a film for Channel 4 before. So I knew it was going to be different because I am completely fresh to this type of content. I think that I definitely had the intention of creating something from a different point of view, because we are all so very used to the trope of the true crime documentary. We're so used to things being focused on the perpetrators or, you know, somebody just being a victim, whereas it was genuinely my hope and my sole aim was to honor the people that I've known and to tell a story properly and to do it with dignity, respect, but fundamentally an unwavering honesty, which I hope that I kept, even though it was tough and I had to keep questioning myself while we were filming. And I think that much is true. Like, I was learning a lot as we were going on. But even from the fact that the first person that we interviewed was Uncle Richard Taylor. And I say uncle, of course, because we're Nigerian, not because we're related.
You have to, you have to.
Oh, of course, it's impossible
You're
to
going to be in trouble if not.
He's probably watching. And but he was the first person that I spoke to, because without his blessing and without his say-so, this film couldn't have happened. And I approached it in the way that, you know, I would want to watch a film being made about a place that I lived and the place that I played. I put myself in the position of my sister and my neighbors, and I wanted to do everyone proud. So I knew there would be a lot of unpacking. I wasn't sure how much we'd fit into an hour, but I definitely knew that it would be different.
Well, you spoke about getting the blessing of Richard Taylor, of course, Damilola's father, to make the film, and that happened on camera. Were you nervous about approaching? Because you hadn't actually met him before, had you?
No, I was petrified. I was absolutely shaking like a leaf, because we'd never met him. When he came to view the place where Dami died, we were told to stay away from him. And when the funeral happened, we were told to stay away. The kids from the block and the area were told to not bother them. And even when the news and people, the cameras and stuff came, we were told to move and to get out of the way. So when it came to meeting him as an adult, I didn't want him to think that I was abusing his son's memory or using it for any type of gain. But B, I wanted to, you know, get the blessing of the person whose grief is so much bigger than mine and whose loss matters so much more than my loss matters. And just to explain to him through my own words and prepare him for the film that was to come. Because if it's hard for me to watch and for me to participate in, I can't even imagine somebody who lost their son and their wife shortly after due to this trauma. I couldn't imagine what it was like for him.
Well, the access was incredibly important. It had to be done sensitively, authentically. You talk to the right people to get the right stories and the right shared experiences. And I know that a huge part of that is having the right crew. So tell me about your relationship with the crew, working together. Did you bond? Were there challenges?
It was so challenging. I worked very closely with Ashley, who's the director, and he's incredible. We're both quite new to this, and especially this type of filmmaking. So I think that bonded us closely initially. And then, you know, he directed and produced it. So he's there with his camera, and then he's telling me what he wants to do, as well as, you know, prepping people, when he was extremely hands-on. And I think that that's part of the reason why this is so honest and it is so stark and probably quite difficult to watch in certain times, because it's just Ashley and I there with this camera speaking it through, and sometimes the camera would be on and sometimes the camera would be off. It was almost like a reality TV show in the moments that he caught. And I also think that having Ashley and having Nelson and Sharul and people who worked on the film, it was a team of color. And I think that made such a big difference, because it wasn't just me, a Black woman, speaking about Black trauma and unpacking joy and all of these extremely nuanced experiences with, a team that isn't representative sending me out into the Gaza. There were people who understood, Nelson, who is the assistant producer, we've got mutual friends. So when he's contacting somebody like Tiny Man or trying to arrange a day to film with my sister, he can speak to her properly. Ashley, we fit into the area. People were very disarmed when they were speaking to us because of the representation on screen with myself and off screen with the crew. And genuinely, especially without Ashley, this wouldn't have happened. He's incredible.
Having a diverse crew is so important in terms of representation, but also in terms of inclusion, what it means for the story that's being told and the authenticity of it. And as you say, being able to make those connections with the people whose very, very sensitive experiences you're exploring. And it sort of stands in contrast with the way you're interviewed in the Panorama documentary that we get an insight on. It's incredible footage to have had access to. So we do have a clip that we're going to watch now. Seeing you so level-headed and articulate at that age, it is incredible. Like, what amazing footage to unearth. But what seemed really powerful to me, what really struck me, was that you seemed so aware of the agenda that he was pushing. I mean, you must remember it a little bit. Do you remember thinking that he was trying to paint Peckham in a certain way there?
Well, he wouldn't stop until I answered the question. He asked many times about gangs. He asked if we'd seen anyone be stabbed. He asked all these sort of questions. And, I've always been, and even at that time, protective of where I'm from and who I know. I think it's so crazy to look at myself 20 years ago and see exactly the same spirit that I have now. People always change, and that you might become, life beats you down, and it's that fight spirit hasn't left me. I'm really proud of 11-year-old me, especially because that was about a week after Dami had been murdered, and my mum she wanted the 100 quid they were offering for the interview, to be perfectly honest. But, the fact that we've got that footage, and the fact that I can show people, not just describe it and give you a romanticized view of what it was like growing up, but I can actually show you the treatment of children who were expected to behave in a way that was adult. Like, how on earth was I meant to know how to handle my friend being killed at 11 years old? They didn't offer us anything but 100 quid to do an interview that went on BBC One.
It's unbelievable to see. You're a baby. You're basically babies, but you're acting so mature. And I love that I can see that same spirit, that it's just so recognizable in you. When you saw that archive for the first time, including, seeing your mum who has passed since, how did it make you feel?
Heartbroken. That was the taster that we filmed. So it was before the show was commissioned. It was before the film was guaranteed to be made. And we just filmed it in my flat. And then I assumed we were going to redo it for the real film, but no, that was the footage they used, because the reaction was it was so real. I didn't know that they found it. I forgot my mum was in it. I just remembered my brother and I being interviewed, and just seeing the just dilapidated area, and just seeing myself, seeing my mum, seeing just, how shabby where we lived was. It just really kind of put into perspective the trauma that we went through.
You don't have to be from Peckham or even be a Black woman to connect with the feelings that you're describing, though. And I think that's what makes this documentary so universal in a way, and so it's so powerful. I think you could be from anywhere and recognize that pride, regardless of what other people think of your area, because that's your roots. Yes, we're our roots with a double O where we're from, but we're also the roots that we take, and they work together to give us our identity. And I feel like there's a journey that Peckham goes through for the audience watching that. Do you see Peckham in a different light now?
Yeah. I mean, of course, we've all seen the footage of everyone playing cricket a few weeks ago, and people wouldn't have dreamt of doing that in Peckham in the 90s and the early noughties. But I see Peckham differently to the way that I saw it before I started filming, because, I definitely had a romantic view of it. I had this rose-tinted childhood memory, hazy memory of what happened because of my refusal to confront and unpack the trauma that comes along with my childhood. Now that I've gone through this process and I've got a little bit of distance from it, and also people have been able to see it and react to it, I'm under the impression and I'm of the belief that many things can be true at one time. So whilst I know that my memories and the good times are definitely real and they did exist because I actually have people there and they're telling me that it was real and they've proven it, the bad stuff is true too, but these two things can just exist simultaneously, and that's okay.
Well, there's a very poignant moment where you do see the way that Peckham was being portrayed in the media, the light that was being shone on it and what that said about its residents. So let's have a look at a clip of that moment. There's a quote that I've seen all over Twitter since the film went out, which is that you can't put people in hell and then call them devils, which is, I mean, it speaks to so many people, and it continues to happen. The demonization of so many demographics, so many members of our society in the media, it continues. So why was it important for you to portray that in the film and to show the hope and the joy and the light in this place that was demonized?
Because I do think that things are the same, if not worse now, because time has passed. And, Dami isn't the first story and he wasn't the last. And it continues to happen with groups of people who are marginalized. And we all know the stories. We all know the current climate that we live in. It's the sort of thing of, I don't think that it is helpful to out and out just accuse people of stuff. I don't like to be violent with my words or my actions, but I don't like to be violent with my words. What I like to do, and what I think is the most effective form of action, is to show people what the truth is and to show people the evidence of the vilification or of something, so that you can understand where I'm coming from. I think in this film we unpack, I know I've used that word so much, but I really do bring a lot to the table.
Yeah.
And, I really am talking about, the nuances between joy and trauma and grief and loss, but there's hope. And there's also celebrities thrown in there as well. But that's kind of like the truth of this bubble that I grew up in. And without that factual evidence, without me showing you what the Mirror said and the Telegraph and the Guardian and the Sun and whoever, News of the World, whatever, back in the day, what these newspapers said, people would ask me, where's the evidence? People would ask me, where's the truth? So I want to show people just exactly just what happens and what continues to happen. I just think it's really important to document and to show the evidence, because then you can see how harmful it is. And especially when you have people like myself and people who still live in council estates, something like 1 in 3 kids grow up in social housing. So it isn't a story of the past, it's a tale of current Britain, modern Britain, not just historical Britain. So when you see all of this, hopefully it can show people just how damaging it is and just how much shame and how much turmoil it can inflict on those who are in those circumstances.
Do you think that the community that you were a part of on the North Peckham estate, do you think that they trust the media? You talked to so many friends and family. Was it hard to get people to open up because they've been in that position where, just like you in that Panorama documentary, were on the spot and shown in a certain light that they didn't have agency of, that wasn't their voice?
I think that because it was me, people were fine to speak to me. They were very cagey when Nelson was ringing them, like, and they're like, "Who?" And I had to get on the phone and be like, "It's me." So it's like, you know, someone like me has a different level of care. I have a certain responsibility for the contributors of this film. They are me. They are my family. Literally, they are my friends. Literally, they are people that I revere, I love, and respect. But yes, I would say that people who grew up where I grew up and in similar circumstances completely and wholly and justifiably have fear and just complete and utter disdain for the media and the way they portray us, especially when things like this happen, because we were vilified to the point that I just told people I didn't come from Peckham. It was easier.
I've actually just got a question in on this through Slido saying, were there other friends or Peckham residents that you would have liked to have included but you couldn't?
Yeah, we spoke to more people than who are included in the film. It just so happens that the conversations that we really, really thought were very poignant in telling the story were the ones that were included. I would have loved to have got more of my siblings in the film, but I didn't want to make it that about the Bokinnis. There's so many of us, and you know, it would have been great to have found more people. But ultimately, I do think that we did the job that was required of us, and I do think that, you know, Francesca, a tiny man, and even Ashley, they were really really well placed, and even meeting Cornelius for the first time was quite an interesting dynamic that we had between us, because I didn't actually know him when I was younger, so I think that we did it justice. But of course, you know, I could have spent hours and hours and hours meeting all of the people that I grew up with.
Were there any unexpected moments when you were filming?
I'd say Sade's memories being so different to mine. I think that was quite a shock, because obviously she was older. She's 5 years older than me, so she has a more adult and more in-depth memory of what happened. And I also I think I was just shocked by the spirit that existed in the community centre when I went to go and visit the original Peckhamites. That was really nice. It was really lovely to spend time with them. And even my friends were like, "Oh, that's the real Yinka," when I'm shouting at the old men. There she is.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to ask you a few more questions before I come to that, but since you mentioned it, let's see a little clip of the heart of Peckham, the Hollywood that is Peckham. I was so happy when I saw that, when that scene came on in the doc, because I'd been like, you know, I've been sad and I've been crying, and then you just have so much hope and so much joy that the film does find through tragedy. And it's a journey, and it's a journey that I think we all need. You know, I was reading an article the other day about the situation that we're all in at the moment, and it described it as horizonlessness. Like, we don't know what to place value on because the future is so uncertain. But one thing we do have through all of that is community, it's solidarity, it's togetherness, it's support. And that is what Peckham also represents. I mean, how did it feel to spend time with those guys?
Oh, it was some much needed, you know, comic relief, and
Yeah.
just to, because, you know, we'd been filming such dark, like, really emotionally taxing stuff. So when Nelson said to me, "Oh, you're gonna like this one," I thought, "Oh, you said that about the library." And but when we rocked up to the community centre, and I spoke to the guy who runs it, and he introduced me to a few of the locals, and I know some of them anyway, because they really did, like, I grew up around them in North Peckham. So it was just so nice to recenter and actually remember why I started out on the journey. We filmed that, I think it was maybe January or maybe just before Christmas. So it was halfway, I think, through filming. And it was really nice after having all of my memories beat down, and, you know, the tales of violence, and also just, you know, rehashing the whole poverty thing when it came to the North Peckham estate, that getting to connect with the older gentleman just made me refocus and remember that there is always hope, and there is always a sense of home when I'm around people who are from where I'm from.
Well, I think that's really reflected in some of the reviews that you got, which, congratulations, are just They're amazing, as they should be.
They're so intimidating.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot.
Yeah.
The Guardian, 5 stars. No big deal. Yinka does a brilliantly sensitive job, uplifting and redemptive, which I think are the right choice of words. It's quite a thing to see adults unpacking their shared childhood trauma like this, finding some healing in each other's understanding, an essential contribution to our understanding of Damilola's legacy. It means a lot. And then here in Vogue, the community spirit is something to behold. And so too is Yinka's emotional honesty. Like, how does it feel to hear that?
I was sitting on my sofa yesterday eating Chinese and watching this show about makeup, and I was going through my DMs just because I'm trying to say thank you to everybody, but it just isn't possible because I've never had this many people be interested in something that I feel so passionate about. It, it's all well and good when you fling up a selfie or someone laughs at your joke on radio, but like when it is something that I've poured my soul into this film and I've really given away, the first time I've seen my mum in 12 years, and a conversation that I should have had with my sister 20 years ago, I've shown it for the world to see. I wasn't thinking about how it was going to be received. And of course, you don't do things for accolades. If you do it properly, you don't do it to get the attention, but to be acknowledged for the hard work is just completely and utterly overwhelming. I didn't even think that people would watch it, let alone review it and then give it more than a couple of stars, because ultimately I think, unfortunately, we are taught just through history that our stories, Black stories, may not be as interesting and they don't matter as much. So for this to be a story that is unapologetically about Black people and unapologetically just exploring Black trauma and everything that comes with that, for it to be received so well, so widely, it was just completely unexpected, because I thought it'd be like a specialist response as opposed to broadsheet and The Sun.
Yeah. You know what, actually, talking of The Sun and other, programmings, platforms that have a different demographic, I saw that you went on Good Morning Britain, and often when you go on a show like that, it can be quite polarizing, and people can be like, I've been on to talk about Black Lives Matter, and my Twitter has been a mess because people get angry and they troll, and there's a lot of hate and there's a lot of ignorance and stubbornness out there. But it was overwhelmingly positive, because I think what you were expressing was joy in spite of trauma, Black joy, which is radical and which no one can take away from us, no one can take away from you, no one can take away from the community. And that feedback was good in the press. It was good on Twitter because I think people connected with it. What's more important to you? I've just got this question through, actually. What is more important, the press or the Twitter feedback? And I'm actually going to add to that, or that of your family and friends.
Oh, I was going to say, like, the people who matter the most are the people close to me. It's my biggest critic, of course, is like myself and my family and my immediate friends. But I want people from Peckham to like it. Even if it didn't land in the way that it has done, if people from Peckham, people who lived there, people who still live there, appreciated it, saw what I was trying to do and felt represented and properly, that's enough. Twitter is great, that the reviews and stuff, it's all absolutely incredible, because I want as many people to see it as possible, because it really is a tale of Black Britain, yes, but of Britain in general. And it's just really important to me that the people who are important to me and the people who are affected by these issues are their opinions matter the most. It's, to the people who have lost their family members. It's for people who grew up in similar situations. It's for people who lost friends and don't know how to deal with it. It's for young people and old people. And whilst it being critically acclaimed is unfathomable to my mind, I still haven't quite got my head around that. It's for people. It's for human beings.
It's also a very personal journey, and I've asked about the reaction from the press, from Twitter, from your friends and family. How did you react when you first saw it, when you went into that edit?
I didn't like it.
Really?
And it's not that I think it's a great film. I just think I look really tired, like, because obviously I'm exhausted
Probably
emotionally.
are tired.
So I'm shattered. No, I didn't like it because I just thought this is so real. There's no sparkle. Like, there's no, like, where's the swoosh? Where's the red carpet? Where's the glamour? But, you know, I watched it 3 or 4 times, and then that's before we went in to do the for me to do the voiceover and stuff as well. And every time I watched it, I started to understand what it was that we had done, because, you know, ultimately it was a culmination of what we had filmed. And then slowly the stories just started to emerge from me. The more I removed myself from it, the more I watched it, the less I was looking at, you know, how I'm sitting, how I'm standing. Did I ask that question properly? Does Sade look okay? What did I say to her? Is she comfortable? And the further away I got from it, and the more I put an almost editorial hat on, the more I realized that I would be happy to watch it. I think, yeah, I don't. I think it will take a while for me to have a proper opinion on it, though, because I'm such a big critic for myself. It's impossible for me to applaud something that took so much.
Yeah, and it takes on its own life. The more people it touches, it becomes something for them, and that thing could be different from one person to the next. It's probably different for me to the next person who viewed it, but we both got
Definitely
so much out of it. So I would love to thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of people would love to thank you for that, because you've done yourself, you've done Peckham so proud. You've also done Damilola proud. I've got a question here that's just come in saying, the film highlights the polarizing sides of Damilola, the boy the media portrayed and who you knew. Did you set out to show us the real Dami?
Oh, hell yeah. I, you know, it's so crazy because I've stayed away from the narrative that has been pushed for the last couple of decades, simply because it just comes with so much responsibility that it's been very difficult for me to read articles and watch documentaries and watch films based on him, because no one who knew him when he lived in England has ever been involved in those productions. So I think, oh, this is just based on how he died. This is just based on what happened to him. And ultimately, that makes me, Francesca, Sade, my siblings, the villains as well, because we were part of the people who, according to this documentary, ostracized him. So it was just so important that not only am I trying to completely, you know, just emancipate Peckham from the shackles of what we've been tarred and feathered with, but it was just really important that people understood that his demise and the circumstances of his death were not inevitable. It's not, he didn't land in Peckham and he was destined to die. He landed in Peckham, he lived, and then something awful happened, and something that was completely, you know, it was completely predictable and avoidable happened to him. And but the months in between, he was welcome and he was loved and he was one of us. And I don't think that story has ever been told, because nobody asked us. Nobody thought to find out what his favorite color was, or if he liked football, or, you know, all of these sort of things, because the most salacious things are the things that get the most attention. And that's why I wasn't sure if even people were going to react to this documentary, because it isn't, you know, an interview of the killers. It isn't something that is just that juicy news. It's a slow burning, took us 20 years to feel comfortable to speak about it thing. And that isn't necessarily what's deemed as popular, especially when you think of the amount of trauma that we consume all the time. This, whilst it is very stark and very raw, is almost subtle in its grief compared to the videos that we see on Twitter.
What gets put in the press or gets put on TV is often, I guess, what commissioners or editors feel people want. So they give them what they want. Yeah. And what you're explaining is like the people wanting to stick to a narrative that is tried and tested. And actually what you've done here is shift that narrative, reframe it and say, no, look, we have a voice. He had a voice. He had a life. And I truly believe, because I'm optimistic, that there is a shift happening. It's happening in wider media. Certainly since the momentum that was gained by the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of broadcasters, they're pledged. They're going to make changes to their on-screen, their off-screen faces, the stories that they're telling, the voices they're giving a platform to. Do you think that's happening? Do you think it's authentically, tangibly, meaningfully happening?
I hope so. I think I think it's something that can't be decided in 6 months. I don't think that enough time has passed since, Black Square Day till now to see if real change and real tangible efforts have been made. I will say that in the wake of the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, it's definitely made me more visible. I think it's made us more visible. I think it's encouraged us to live in our blackness and to be a lot more, just a lot more kind of just like stick up for ourselves a bit more, and to not laugh awkwardly and to not accept the crumbs that are often handed out to people of color. So I would say that the movement's changed me. I think that it's changed those around me. And I think that if I am different, then hopefully that means that where I'm working and the content that I'm producing and the films that hopefully I go on to make will be different, because ultimately there won't be any space for the same old drivel if the people behind it and the people involved are have been changed, I think. But hopefully, what do you think? I think so.
No, I agree. Actually, what you just said, that really struck a chord. Like, I feel like this movement this summer helped me find my voice in a way that I had like been encouraged to suppress it for so many years, for 30 years, because I don't want to be different. I don't want to stand out. I don't want people to think that I'm aggressive or I'm sassy or I'm feisty, all these words that get used to describe you just because you're Black, even if you're just expressing an innocuous opinion. And actually, that's not the broadcaster I wanted to be. I want to be able to be myself, but I had to find myself. And it's taken this to have that opportunity, to have that space and that time, so much to unpack for yourself. Like, I remember me and my brother sitting down and discussing between ourselves. We literally wrote a list of every racist thing that ever happened to us. And I was like, why are we doing this? But it's because we've never done it before, because I just didn't think that's the person that an audience wants to see. But actually, that is me.
You're a human being, and this is my point. Yeah. You're a human being. We're human beings. And it's like, so that's even like with this film, people say, like, are you just going to do documentaries now? Are you only going to do serious stuff? And I'm like, no, like, there's light and shade, and there's, depth, and there's even shallowness to my character. I'm a human being. And, whilst of course you want to be the beacon of light for people, you want to keep them company, especially during times like this where things are just a bit down in the dumps and, things are super tough. Ultimately, I think that it's actually more appreciated. I've noticed, especially with radio and with this film, people, when you're real, like for instance, we take what's happened in Nigeria recently. The other day, I actually cried on radio, and that's never happened to me before, but I was just trying to explain why I felt so strongly about it. But the messages and there's just that from on Twitter, from texts, from people who have never messaged before, who they understand that you are a human being. And I think there's been this fear for so long that to be a broadcaster, you have to slap on a smile regardless of anything that happens to you, and laugh about like chocolate biscuits. Whereas, sorry, there are more important things happening. And yes, you can be dynamic, and yes, you can be witty in your deliverance, but ultimately, this is important. And I think being a human during these times trumps playing stupid games, man. Like, honestly.
Yeah. Hosting the bejesus out of it.
Hosting the bejesus out of everything that I do.
What do you think still needs to happen in the TV industry?
I just think there needs to be more representation of diverse communities off camera and off air, ultimately. And I think this is a media-wide problem. I think ultimately, if the first time a person of color is seeing the decision is when they're saying it on air, there is a problem. If it's when it's being delivered to camera or they're saying it on radio, whatever it may be, that's where the problem is. There has to be diverse people. And I even mean, women and people from other ethnic minorities. I don't only mean Black people. I mean truly diverse, to tell proper stories and, to just get a true flavor of how rich in culture even like Britain is. I just think that diversity, but in the places where decisions are made.
Yeah. So it's not tokenistic. It's not ticking a box and being like, yeah, that's the diversity box. Diversity means variety. It means the multifacetedness of all of us, the glorious technicolor that we should be represented. But that comes
it's not just putting a brown face on it at the end. No. Yeah. So.
Yinka, what's coming up next for you? What are you working on?
Well, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next because, this, of course, is my first film for Channel 4. So it's the biggest of deals and I want to live in this for a bit. I don't want to rush into just churning out loads of different things and it not being right. I definitely want to explore factual TV and entertainment as well, whilst still being employed at Capital XTRA. That would be lovely. I like it there. But I think just telling proper stories. That's all I want to do. I just want to be able to make people feel something, even if it is a slight chuckle. Just more, I'd say.
Yeah, I've got a question in that's specifically about the Black Voices conversations you've been hosting. That's for Huffington Post, no?
Yes.
Yeah, saying this is so important. It's brilliant. Really been enjoying them. How did these come about, and what guests have you got coming up?
Well, that came about really organically, actually. HuffPost just got in contact with, I was gonna say our management. We've got to say manager. Yeah. So they just got in contact with them, and they were just like, "Does Yinka want to host this?" And I was actually and ahhing about it because I am a lighter skinned Black woman, and I didn't want to take the job from anybody else, because I think that's also a big issue within media. That colorism and people who are lighter getting more opportunities, of course. So I really had to think about it, and so I have a huge input in the guests and the topics and stuff. I don't know who's coming up next. We just released an episode the other day, but I know that we've got another episode on health to come that we're filming in the next couple of weeks. But it's really lovely to be involved in conversation with people who are so much smarter than me and who bring so much to the table, and really speaking about issues that affect all people, but just through the lens of Black Britain it's really refreshing. And it's a place where people they don't have to justify their experiences. They can just speak about them and they're believed. And I'm extremely honoured to be able to chair that and drive that bus. And it's really a good show, actually. Big up Jason, he's great.
Yeah, it was a good show. You know what? It feels like there is a tangible change happening, and I don't know, I feel galvanized, I feel mobilized. I feel like even the fact that we can have this conversation and just throw in there, we both have a responsibility as mixed race women to be aware of our privilege when it comes to shadism and colorism in where that is rife. And it would be irresponsible not to make a point of that when you're talking about the voice that you have and the voice that perhaps some of your darker skinned colleagues might not have, or the aggressions or microaggressions they might face on a daily basis. I think for all that sometimes it can be overwhelming, and you look around and you're like, if there's that much abuse on Twitter or that many people who are angry that this conversation is happening, sometimes you're like, is this enough? Is it ever going to be enough? When will this ever change? But actually, we've got to be positive. And I think that we are taking steps in the right direction. I think you're testament to that. I've got a question here that's come in. I mean, you said before that you would like to do more factual films, but when it's right, are there any stories or topics that you would like to explore in future documentaries?
Oh, definitely. I mean, just obviously I love true crime. I mean, that's a bit of me, but like I am all over that bad boy. But it's just humanizing. It's just humanizing. There's just issues. For me, I'm really passionate about telling the stories of people who are otherwise silenced. So that's why I feel so passionately about telling the stories of victims. Like when it comes to, if we speak about crime, it's the perpetrators who are revered and who are famous, and their victims are often go unnamed a lot of the time in articles or in news reports. So I feel very, very passionately about just giving voices to those who don't necessarily have them, but whose voices are the most important. Of course, when we speak about factual filmmaking, I am but a green baby, because my first film is something that is so close to me. But yeah, it's quite exciting knowing that I've done my film, and then there's a whole world of factual out there for me to potentially get my teeth stuck into that don't necessarily rest on my experience. If Louis Theroux can go to a brothel in Texas, and then I can do whatever I want to do. I don't want just my experiences to be the reason that I'm in a space, I want to be able to investigate and humanize things that don't necessarily even like represent me.
Well, you can't possibly be connected to every single subject you ever investigate.
You'd be stressed.
What a life that would be. Imagine every drug circle you buzz, every brothel you have to go and spend time in. You're like, no, but this in some ways, this is it's a way in. It's more than a way in. I hate even saying that because it like that reducts it. But in some ways it's like, I feel like you have a home now on Channel 4 because this is such an important piece of television, and where you go from there, like, you can do anything. Do you have like a big goal in mind? Some people work like that and some people don't.
Well, I definitely feel at home at Channel 4. I love the team, and I love Fozia and Emma and Danny. Like I genuinely want. I think that's. I want to like keep making films with them, especially because they give you a freedom to do it as well. They're like, go and do this, and we'll let you know what we think of it, as opposed to looking over your shoulder all the time. My life goal isn't anything to do with this though. It's to be an extra in a Harry Potter movie, and I'm gonna do it. But that's just my personal. Do you think they're not going to remake them by the time that our lives are when we're 50?
Yeah. You're so right.
But like, that's just my. Yeah, no, my actual life goal is to be an extra in some kind of, like, it could be the Cursed Child I could walk past. Okay. It's on the stage. A Fantastic Beast I could be at the bus stop. But that's off-piste. But that's my life goal.
No, it's not off-piste, because I'm going to take your extra and I'm going to raise you. I reckon you get a line. In there. Yeah.
Like, golly.
Yeah, see, perfect. You can see this as your audition for it. So if anyone from Warner Brothers is watching right now, did you hear Yinka's
woman on bike 2? This is that's my aim.
I've got another question has come in asking, have you any ambitions to move behind the camera and maybe direct your own films in the future?
In the future, yeah, definitely. But I think that's something. I did last year. I was like, a documentary, that's far in the future, and look where we are. So, yeah. But I think it, of course, because it's taking control of the narrative, isn't it? It's putting a piece of yourself and trusting other people to do it justice. But in the future, I think I would definitely want to get out of the spotlight, so to speak, in terms of being the face of doing things. But that's like, not right now, because I'm still very much learning how to speak without blocking other people. So
it's a journey, isn't it? I feel like every part of it is a different chapter. Every bit of experience leads on to the next thing, and it's so exciting to be learning constantly, and especially with such an amazing team around you. Yinka, just finally, is there anything else that you want to say to everyone who's watching now at home, especially like during the strangest of times, but at a time when your documentary has cut through? You know, it's been important to watch it, and I feel like more important now than ever.
I just want to say thank you. I feel like I've said thank you more times this week than ever in my life, and I'm extremely polite. But honestly, just in terms, like, thank you to Channel 4 and Fozia just for giving me the opportunity to tell my truth and to tell the story of my corner of the universe. And the response has just been more than anything that I could imagine. I think especially during times like this, where things are so uncertain and you don't even know if the workplace that you know and love is going to exist tomorrow, or if you're going to be able to leave your house or something. I just think that it is so inspiring to me, and just so, it's almost like I've got the world's biggest head because everyone's giving me all these compliments, but it's so humbling to know that so many people resonate with a story that really isn't all sunshine and rainbows. So I think mine is just a message of gratitude to everybody who's made not only this talk possible, but the film possible. And, you know, to you for even spending time speaking to me, and like to Emma and to Fozia and to Danny and to Ashley for putting up with me. And it's just, and to every person who's watched it and sent me messages and you know, even if you haven't, if you've just told your aunt or your neighbor or your cousin about it, it's just so appreciated, because I really didn't think that anyone would care, honestly. So thank you.
And I want to say thank you to you. Like, I mean, I've told everyone to watch it, because it's fantastic. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you, because I know what you went through. I saw you every morning when you were making this film, and it's beyond anything I could have expected. So thank you, Yinka. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for sharing Damilola's story with us. And thank you for sharing the story of Peckham with us. Thank you, Channel 4, for having us both, and to the Sheffield Documentary Festival. This has been an absolute pleasure. And also we get to see each other, which is nice, because it's been so long.
Hi.
I know, hi. Hopefully, like, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. No one knows, but hopefully we'll get to see each other soon. Hopefully all of us watching will get to see each other at some point, and next year we'll be able to see each other in person for this. But this has been an absolute joy. So thank you all so much for watching, and have a beautiful weekend. I think it turns off now.